What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the attic. Dock the boat and remove the eye patch. We can finally retire from a life on the high seas. Dana decided that if he ever wanted the UFC to be as popular as Power Slap, then the $80 pay-per-views had to go. UFC 324 will be the first card on Paramount Plus, where a one-year subscription costs the same as ESPN's very first pay-per-view. Let's just hope that Paramount is better prepared for their first event. If we're being honest, though, it doesn't really matter how bad they do. Most of the MMA community will show up every week to complain no matter what. First things first, we have a couple of Bankroll updates to start things off. We begin with a weekly bonus from the first week of January. Then our monthly bonus is still being given as daily reloads. And finally, week 2's bonus. The three of these together total $7 for an increase of 0.96 units to the bankroll. Our closing bankroll is $732.48. This sets our unit size at $7.32, but that will not matter on this card. Every prediction this week was agreed upon by all three models. So everything has been upscaled to 1.5 units, which is $10.99. Stick around to see how I managed to risk more than 82% of my bankroll on this one card. It all starts off with a welterweight bout between Adam Fugitt and Ty Miller. Ty is an undefeated UFC newcomer with a record of 6-0. He's also 11 years younger with a small advantage in both height and reach. Adam is much more experienced and also finishes fights more consistently, but a 66% win rate is a bad look. I've placed a single bet against Fugitt in the past for a small profit. His model odds for that fight were from the high 20s to the high 30s. That looks downright impressive compared to the 15 to 20% that we're getting this time. Ty Miller is a minus 360 favorite at the books, and all three models are also overwhelmingly in his favor. I picked him up for 5.4 units to return 1.5 units with a win. Fight number 2 is a bantamweight bout between Cameron Smotherman and Ricky Turcios. Both of these guys have lost their last 2 fights and are looking to stop the bleeding. They have very similar records, with Smotherman taking 1 additional loss, but also having a few more KO wins. The most interesting part about their records is how long it took to get there. Smotherman has 18 pro fights with a career beginning in 2021. While Ricky has 1 less beginning in 2013. That's a fight frequency ratio of 2.65 to 1. This is reflected in the wager history, where I have 2 past bets against Cameron and none involving Ricky. Smotherman's last 2 losses have both paid, but the models have faith in him this time around. The books are also on his side, with the line currently at minus 185. I wagered 2.78 units on Cameron Smotherman's money line. Our first heavyweight fight sees Denzel Freeman taking on Josh Hokit. These two are making a pretty quick turnaround, each under 3 months. Josh made quick work of his last opponent and ended the night in less than 1 minute. Denzel, on the other hand, had a full 15-minute sparring match. It wasn't exciting, but he did take his opponent's undefeated record, which he'll look to do again at UFC 324. Josh's last fight was one of the few I could not make predictions on last year. We just didn't know enough about his opponent at the time. I'm currently down almost exactly 1 unit on Denzel. The year started off well, but his recent win wasn't good for me. The models are again predicting a Freeman loss, and this time the bookmakers are as well. I've wagered 3.45 units on Josh Hokit as a minus 230 favorite. Next is a matchup between Alexander Hernandez and Michael Johnson at lightweight. Hernandez has won 4 in a row since he moved back up in weight. At lightweight, his record is 10-4. Unfortunately, he's lost all 3 of his bouts down at featherweight. Johnson also spent time in both of these divisions with a 2-2 record at featherweight and a 14-13 record at lightweight, where he is currently on a 3-fight win streak. I've won exactly half of the wagers that I've placed on these two, and I'm still down nearly 5 units. Both of my losses were bets on substantial favorites, which always do damage to the bankroll when they lose. I haven't yet placed an underdog bet involving either of these two, and that isn't changing today. I placed 2 wagers on Alexander Hernandez as a minus 170 favorite. This was a single bet that I split up so that I could use all of my free play winnings from a recent contest. All 3 models are extremely confident in Alex, so you can see at the bottom that I still risked 2.55 units to return 1.5 units with a win. We'll close out the early prelims by dropping down for a flyweight bout between Charles Johnson and Alex Perez. It's no surprise that Charles has both a height and reach advantage in this division. He has never been the shorter fighter in a UFC bout. Alex is making a pretty quick turnaround of only 63 days. He lost by submission in that last fight, but more importantly, it was 2 hard rounds where he ate some very big shots against Almabayev. These two have made us a small profit on a 2-1 betting record. We have always bet the favorite, and we've never bet on Charles, but one of those is about to change. I will be placing my first wager on Charles Johnson to win, and he is even a minus 205 favorite at the book. All of the models like him to win, but I wouldn't say that 53% is a convincing amount. The strategy has not changed though, so 3 models on a favorite means I risked enough to return 1.5 units with a win. Nikita Krylov and Modestas Bukauskas will open up the prelims at light heavyweight. Look at the records of these two. Win or lose, it's almost always an early finish. The big difference here is what's happened recently. Krylov has been stopped by round 1 KO in his last 2 fights, while Modestas is on a 4-fight run, finishing 3 of those, 2 by first round KO TKO. The models have correctly predicted 4 out of 5 past wagers, only losing a very small wager on one of its first ever cards. Since then, we've come a long way, and now we are quite confident in Modestas Bukauskas to win. He is a minus 150 favorite at my book, so I wagered 2.25 units. The only middleweight bout on this card is between Andrey Pulyaev and Ateba Gautier. Andrey is only 28, but he will still be the older fighter by nearly 5 years. Both of these guys are incredibly good at finishing fights early. They let very few get out of the first round, and many less make it to a decision. Pulyaev does have a KO loss on his record, although that was nearly 3 years ago. Our prediction history here is still perfect, turning a total profit of more than 2 units. As you can see, Ateba has not so gradually become a larger and larger favorite over time. Fortunately, this time we get a small break with the line now down at minus 900. All 3 models are over 62% in favor of Ateba Gautier, so I placed a 13.51 unit wager on him to win this fight. Up next is a bantamweight bout between Umar Nurmagomedov and Deiveson Figueiredo. Despite being 38 years old, Figgy is still trying to earn a title shot in a second division. He recently lost to two contenders in Sandhagen and the current champ, Petr Yan. But after a win in October, the UFC is giving him another opponent higher in the rankings. Umar is nearly undefeated and still among the top of the division, with his only pro loss coming to the former champ in Merab. In the past, I have made a small amount of money on Umar. Unfortunately, the models just haven't been able to figure out Deiveson, betting on the wrong side of both of his fights last year. I'm really hoping that Deiveson doesn't play spoiler again, because this would be a very expensive wager to lose. Each of the models favors Umar in this matchup, two of them as high as 68%. This doesn't give me a whole lot of confidence, though, because he is a minus 1,600 favorite at the book. There is nothing else that I can do for now, though. I'll just have to sweat it out over 24% of my bankroll for the next 2 weeks. Umar Nurmagomedov for 24.01 units to win this fight and return 1.5 units of profit. Closing out the prelims for UFC 324 will be Rose Namajunas and Natalia Silva at flyweight. Rose is a former strawweight champion and has put together a record of 3-2 since moving up 10 pounds. Natalia has a few more fights on her professional record, yet she only has 7 inside of the UFC compared to 18 for Rose. After only a couple of wagers, I'm down a fraction of a unit. Maybe if these ladies were more active, then one of them could earn a title shot sometime soon. 2 models are showing a 70-30 split here, while the third has this as a coin flip. 50.6% is enough to say that all 3 models agree, so I picked up Natalia Silva at a minus 450 for enough to return 1.5 units with a win. The main card opener is set to be a featherweight bout between John Silva and Arnold Allen. Arnold has been away from the octagon for nearly a year and a half now due to a shoulder injury that he sustained in his last bout. He was still able to win that bout, though, ending a 2-fight losing streak. Silva is coming off of his first professional loss in more than 7 years. He suffered a lot of damage before being dropped and finished late in the second round. So far, we have not done well in predicting John's fights. Losing the underdog play is only slightly inconvenient, but John at minus 250 is a loss of nearly 2 units. Because of the injury, we don't have any past predictions for Allen. The models predict a Silva win here, but they do not expect a one-sided affair. The most accurate model is only at 52%, and the others aren't much more confident than flipping a coin. At the books, John Silva is a minus 275 favorite, and I risked 4.13 units on him to win. Paramount might regret this decision if his pants come off, but they have approved Derrick Lewis fighting on the main card against Waldo Cortes-Acosta. Derrick is almost 41, nearly 7 years older than Cortes-Acosta. He has 30 fights in the UFC, while Waldo only has 18 total professional bouts. Waldo is coming back after just 2 months, but it's not just that one quick turn. This will be his 6th fight in the last year. Fortunately, for the bankroll, we are very good at predicting his fights and have correctly predicted all 5 of them so far. As for Derrick, I celebrated his last win, even though it cost me money, and I'll gladly do it again. The models are very confident in Waldo Cortes-Acosta as a minus 320 favorite. I am a very big Derrick Lewis fan, so I'll be happy if he wins, but I've still followed the models and placed a 4.8 unit wager on Waldo. The feature bout takes place at bantamweight between Song Yadong and Sean O'Malley. Sean is the taller and longer fighter. The last time that these weren't both true was his UFC debut, where he gave up 1 inch in reach. Song's last 2 losses are to Petr Yan and Corey Sandhagen. That's the same as Deiveson's last 2 losses. That doesn't mean anything, no, so here's a real fact. This is the second time in a row that Yadong is coming back from an abnormally long layoff. We haven't had much action with these two yet, so the wagers are at 1-1 for a very small loss overall. The most accurate models are also the most confident in this matchup. The top 2 averaging nearly 58% for Sean, while the last one is basically a pick'em with a small lean the same direction. I placed a 3-unit bet on Sean O'Malley as a minus 200 favorite. He seems to be slowly descending into madness, but I think we still have time to cash this one. Our co-main event is a bantamweight title bout with Kayla Harrison looking to earn her first title defense over the former 2-division champ Amanda Nunes. Amanda will be returning from retirement after 2.5 years, and she hopes to push her UFC title wins to an even dozen. Pena tried every trick in the book to get Nunes out of retirement. Turns out that all she had to do was lose. To this day, nobody can figure out why the model predicted a Kayla Harrison loss. No worries though, that totals less than 1/3 of a unit now. There's a trend on this card of at least one model predicting each fight as a coin flip. Very strange. The other 2 here are quite confident in Kayla, both almost exactly at 65%, which is very similar to the books at minus 220. My bet here is Kayla Harrison for 3.3 units. Is this the beginning of the end for women's MMA in the UFC? Somebody here decided that we needed an unnecessary interim title between 2 undeserving contenders just so that this event wasn't headlined by women? Give that man a raise. We are going to close out the first ever Paramount Plus card with a lightweight fight between Justin Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett. Justin has been stopped in 3 of his last 7 bouts. Paddy is on a 7-fight win streak, but his only top 10 fight was over Michael Chandler, who was 2-4 in the promotion at the time. How do you even make it into the top 10 with a 33% win rate? It's probably going to be an incredible fight. Between the 2 of them, they have 19 performance bonuses out of 21 UFC bouts. I just don't understand why there's a title involved. The top of this division has had an extremely slow year, so we only have 1 fight apiece for these 2 guys. Both fighters won their last fight, but we bet against Justin, so we are down about $1 overall. For this fight, all 3 models are siding with Paddy Pimblett, and this time they have a high level of consistency. The most accurate models are also the most confident. At 68%, they also match the book odds of minus 220 very closely. My last bet of the night will be on Paddy for 3.3 units. Finally, let's have a look at the totals. UFC 324 has 14 fights, and we were able to make predictions on every single one of them. This was an insanely expensive week because the models favor all 14 favorites and they agree on every single fight. After upscaling all of the bets to 1.5 units, I have risked 82.32% of my bankroll. I stand to profit 21 units if the favorites sweep the card. That would be a 25.5% ROI. The next 2 weeks, we'll host a couple of LFA and one championship cards. Predictions for each of those cards will drop on Patreon as soon as I lay my bets. That's all I've got for you for now. As always, thank you for watching and good luck on all of your bets this weekend.